This is the JWN Podcast. My guest today is a singer, songwriter, and audio engineer who hails from Music City, USA. But before planting himself in the heart of Nashville, he grew up right around the block from where I call home here in Charleston. Jerry Jacobs has been creating and performing music as far back as he can remember and possesses a do-it-yourself work ethic that has enabled his non-stop passion for all aspects of the music business. Whether it be mastering the ins and outs of audio engineering to commanding an audience with a powerful and energetic stage show, his love of the craft of songwriting has allowed him to adapt to any situation and find the opportunities to keep growing as a musician as he explores the different sounds and styles that make up his career. As you can tell, I'm super excited to have him in studio with me right now. Please welcome Jerry Jacobs. This is family. This is family house. So I've been kind of teasing you over the last couple of episodes and through social media saying I'm going to do my first musical guest, and we're going to do it face-to-face in studio because everything's been over the phone with my guests to this point. And that's why, because it's family.
Yeah.
At this point, it's socially acceptable to have family face-to-face. You were in Nashville.
I was in Nashville.
Exactly.
Technically, that's still my place of residence, but I've retreated down home to Charleston for just a couple weeks here until things calm down in formerly Music City.
Yeah, we came together in unfortunate circumstances.
Yeah.
That kind of brought us together, and through that, at the time you came down here for that, I guess Nashville shut down again, or at least live music was not available to you at the current time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it had been shut down the 2 weeks previous, but it was only supposed to be a 2-week shutdown while they kind of got cases under control. And so I was slated to go back the next. I had all of August booked. Every weekend in August was supposed to be in Nashville, except, 1 or 2 road dates. And then I found out the Tuesday before that weekend that they had shut down again, kind of indefinitely this time. Which is really inconvenient on the Tuesday before to find out that your Thursday, Friday, Saturday is canceled. So I was like, you know what? There's way more, at least there's bars open here. All of the bars in Nashville are shut down. The only ones that are allowed to stay open are the ones that have like a certain amount of restaurant capacity that do a certain amount of food sales. So basically live music is not happening there except for at a handful of places. So, it got really rough there, and you can still do acoustic gigs here in Charleston. So just trying to make lemonade while I'm down here,
Yeah, it's definitely, my wife and I went down to see you play at Uptown Social.
Oh, yeah.
So we pulled up, and there was a crowd of people waiting to get into the place. Wow. And Amy is super, super, like, rightfully so paranoid about the virus. Mm-hmm. So we looked at it, the situation, we saw the courtyard, and I'm like, well, it's full. Like, I don't think we could get in. I think we needed to have come like an hour earlier if we were going to go see this. So we ended up going out to dinner for the first time in months. So it was still, because of you, we had a good night. But I was bummed because I was like, all right, we're going to go see Jerry play in this kind of unique situation. And but we could see like where you were.
You could see me in there.
Yeah. And I was just like, how are you feeling at these events? Primarily they're all outside, right? Mm-hmm. Are you feeling safe?
I feel pretty safe. I think most of the places have done a good job. There's some places that you play that you can see some rules aren't being followed. It's just hard to, when it's a place that serves alcohol, hard to keep people under wraps especially once they start drinking. But the outdoor ones have been really good, especially when they've got like the picnic table set up and people kind of hang out with their own group. No one's really allowed to get up and mingle or do anything like that. So it's been pretty good. But then, like you said, once a line starts forming, there's only so much that people can do. So I feel for the people in the restaurant industry that are trying to navigate this. Because obviously it means cut sales for them every time that a capacity limit is on, or every time it's to space people out, that's less people we can fit in. So it's definitely a challenge for everybody. And it's been interesting to see people adapt to it. But Uptown Social did a good job because where that courtyard is used to be just an alley. There was absolutely nothing there. And they kind of converted that space into like an outdoor performance space because of COVID. So it's been really cool to see, bars adapt in that way and venues kind of make it work. But thank y'all for coming out. I'm so sorry you didn't make it into the show.
No, it was just one of those things where there was a little bit of talking to get Amy to even attempt to do that, because honestly, she does not want to get this virus, and it would kill her work.
Yeah,
she's in front of people one-on-one all the time, and she's safe with that. She's able to, keep her distance, wear a mask, all that kind of stuff. And she's been this for real estate. I don't want to get off on this tangent, but it's been slammed busy.
Yeah,
like the market is crazy right now. It doesn't make sense. The stock market's crazy right now. It's weird how the financial markets are booming right now.
Yeah.
And the economy is in the crapper.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make any sense. I'm not a financial expert. I'm sure somebody could figure it out or explain it to me. But right now, she's got to get it while the getting's good.
Heck yeah.
So, yeah, she's very paranoid about not getting sidelined by an illness.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I think the correlation is once music comes back, then the economy. I think it's all we're missing, right? Is just music.
The arts in general. I mean, think about it, and the service industry, as you said, they're hurt so hard. Like how many awesome restaurants are never going to come back? Like
so many.
These little things that make a place like where I live and you grew up, Charleston. It makes it great. Is those little places of character, those tiny little mom and pop things that don't exist other places. You know what I'm saying? And the same thing in Nashville. You've got places to go and places to eat, and music establishments that are so unique to the area that it draws in the right people and it creates that community. And that's why people go there to get that unique experience. And so to think that those places might get bought out by big box chain stores because the real estate's going to sit there empty, it's a little upsetting.
It is.
It feels like there's a chance that we'll see a lot of these, and there's a lot of flight going from major cities right now. New York and LA are like, I have a client of mine who's a real estate developer, and they're in panic mode.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Everyone's getting out.
Yeah.
These big companies getting the heck out of Dodge.
Wow.
So what's that going to leave in the aftermath?
I don't know. It's going to be an interesting world for sure, but it's hard. It's hard because, you say, oh, it's so sad. It's heartbreaking that all these places are closing. Some of my favorite places in Nashville have closed. The first place I ever played a writer's round in Nashville closed down. Douglas Corner Cafe gone. Some of my favorite restaurants gone. But at the same time, like the alternative is spreading this virus and getting people sick.
Exactly.
So it's kind of, there's no good solution, which is why this is such a frustrating year, because no one's got a good answer for small businesses like that are going under.
Yeah. And well, I think there's opportunity in here too for the underground type, the DIY type people like yourself to rise in this, because you have your whole career, you've been a self-starter. You're not waiting for somebody to give you a green light. You're like, oh, I'm going, I'm taking this. I'm looking for a way to get things done. It's a constant throughout your life. When I first moved to Charleston, this is 15 years ago, and you were a wee lad. You were still you were in high school still at that point.
I think was I middle school?
You might have been middle school.
Middle school.
You were young.
Yeah.
And so let me tell this story so people can get a gauge of the relationship to music that I know Jerry through. So when he was a kid, him and one of his best friends, they had a little kind of like pop rock duo, and they could harmonize. These two kids could sing. Like, it was pretty impressive. And they play guitar, and it was pretty interesting, but they didn't know how to finish a song. Like, they had a hook, they had maybe some verses, they had pieces of songs, they had things. So I had just moved to Charleston. I left my job in New York, and I had, probably about 5 or 6 months of downtime where I was trying to regroup and figure out what I was going to do while I was down here. and I was recording music on my own because I was still kind of fresh off of leaving my band. I was only a few years since I used to play music for a living. So I had certain recording equipment, and I was like, hey, why don't you and your friend come over? We'll record a song. And then they come over and they're showing me these pieces of songs. I'm like, that's nice. Where's the song? And they're like, oh, we don't know. So I kind of put some loops together for some beats, some drum beats, and I played some bass for them using the guitar progressions that they had come up with, and I helped them formulate this little pop song. And we might have to play a piece. I might cut in right here and play a piece of it. Yeah, I don't have to play the whole thing, but you can get an idea. It's a kid. These are kids playing, and yeah. So next thing you know, Jerry's like, hey, can I buy some of that equipment from you? And why don't you take it from there? What was your perspective?
Well, I didn't realize that you could make recorded music at home. And that kind of was like, that was eye-opening for me. I was like, wait, you're telling me that I could do this in my room with a certain equipment? And this is years ago when equipment wasn't even close to where it is now as far as home recording. But I pretty much realized that, like, yeah, I mean, it started with music, but I realized you can do stuff from home if you just figure it out and you get your hands dirty. And that kind of opened my eyes, and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to get recording equipment. I think not long after that, I started getting whatever little audio interface I could. And we literally, me and Alex, that's the friend you were talking about, we recorded music nonstop from like 8th grade to end of high school, and to this day, like, that's what I've been obsessed with ever since then. So, yeah. I mean, I just didn't realize that you could do it from home. And
once you went to college for audio engineering, I was like, holy cow! Like, I have a thing that I've been trying to find with certain creative people that I've been inviting on this podcast. And one of my things is trying to find the people in your life at some point when you were young, before I was involved, somebody acknowledged your talent and put this bug in your ear that, like, hey, this is something you're good at. Do you remember a specific time when somebody said something where it really just like made you go like, yeah, oh, this feels good to get recognized?
I guess I went to a concert. I went to a Hootie and the Blowfish concert. It's like the most Charleston story ever. I went to a Hootie and the Blowfish concert, and I was like, when I was a little kid, and I was like, that's what I want to do. And I just started singing. And yeah, and I guess at some point, I don't remember the exact moment, but I was always trying to volunteer to sing the national anthem at school events in elementary school, 2nd or 3rd grade talent show, performed in the 3rd grade talent show, got 2nd place in 3rd grade talent show, or 3rd or whatever it was. And so it always been, I don't remember an exact moment, but it was always a thing that I kind of decided that I wanted to do. And I think that I kind of, as a singer, especially, I don't think I was ever the guy that was just like, opens his mouth like, oh, this is an amazing singer. I think I just wanted it so bad, and like just dedicated my life to it, kind of, and kind of figured it out as I went along.
Yeah, well, you've always been extremely motivated from what I saw. Like, you just had that spirit in you. So I'm just kind of trying to find the little things, because I there are people who just don't even know. They just, as long as they can remember, like, this is what they're it's in their blood, that performance thing. It just becomes a part of of who you are. I talk about it frequently as to when you're not able to do the thing that gives you kind of that uplifted feeling, that purpose. It's depressing.
For sure.
I can't imagine how many musical artists, just creative people in general, like filmmakers, actors, things like that, theater people. Oh my gosh, theater people. It's like, what can they do?
Yeah.
But that feeling of depression, of not being able to kind of fill your cup with that creative output and input and all of it. But you, like I said, you're hustling. You're like, oh, Nashville's closed? Well, Charleston ain't. I'm going there.
Yeah, you got to make it work, And I think it's just like, it has been rough in this season, especially because, I've got so many creative interests. I love doing video work too. I love messing with graphics. I love, doing podcast stuff. I mean, I love any kind of creative outlet, but the live show is what fuels it all.
Right.
And that's kind of the drug. That's the the dopamine hit that gets you up in the morning. That's what you really look forward to. So it has been like very like introspective during this time to say like, hey, like am I putting too many eggs in that basket? Like where else can I access my creativity except just on stage? And it's kind of opened me up to, okay, well, I've got all this time to write now. I've got all this time to work on new music. And so, we've been in the studio when I was up in Nashville with my band. We've been recording a lot more stuff. We've been writing a lot more and kind of taken, trying to take what is a bad situation for a band and say, hey, well, we have this time that we would never have normally had because we've been playing, 5 shows a week. Let's take it and try to write some music as a band. So, opportunities like that have come up. But you're right. It's interesting to kind of roll with the punches and figure out what the next steps are. As a creative, I'm sure other creatives will agree. Your emotions can be kind of on a roller coaster with, and some of that is good for writing. I think a lot of it is good for writing and creating. But yeah, just trying to work that into actual life now. Things get real when like a pandemic hits and you're like, oh wow, music isn't, as important as toilet paper or other things that people are rushing to buy.
Your priorities start to line up very quickly.
Yep.
And I lived through that in a different way. When Amy got pregnant, my wife got pregnant, my motivations changed completely. And unfortunately, I lived my entire life at that point for a long time for everybody else, and I neglected myself. So it's a scary thing when you got to be careful. It's one of those things where I wish I knew then what I know now is to when they say on the airplane the oxygen drops, to put it around your face first and then help the person next to you. I wish I really understood what that meant in life back then, because there's a lot of good, healthy years that I let go because I was too busy hustling for everyone else. You look great. You've kept in amazing shape.
Thanks.
And your band, before this all hit, I don't want to focus completely on what's going on right now.
Yeah,
We're
sure.
talk about your band tours a lot.
Yeah.
How the hell are you keeping it together while you're on tour? How are you eating healthy? How are you exercising? Like, what's your routine for being a touring musician, because you guys are out all the time?
And it's tough. You definitely have to make it a priority. And I think one thing that helps is that kind of a lot of guys in the band are into staying fit and staying in shape. We actually recently we used to tour in an RV. We bought like a weight set for the RV. So we try to keep some workout equipment on. We'll like roll up to a venue in the parking lot, have the weight bench put up, looking like some jerks out there, but it is what it is. But I think it just when we're home is really when you kind of hit it hard. We try to hit it hard, like staying healthy as possible at home. And sometimes on the road, you've got what you got. You're playing at this venue, you're eating the venue food.
Exactly.
We would play chains at venues, and you kind of find we play venues over and over. Okay, this is the thing on this menu that I can eat and feel healthy for. But the amount of energy that we put out on stage, like we're super high energy, and to keep that up, I mean, there has to be a certain amount of like, you have to eat healthy to a certain extent. You can't like eat a big huge meal right before you go on stage. I try to treat it like I've always liked sports. I've always been in sports too, and I never was good enough at sports to make that as a career. But I try to like take that mentality, like, okay, it's game day, so I need to make sure I eat this at this time. And I'm not that strict with it, but it's something to be conscious of. It's hard on the road though. It is.
So is there something that you have learned at this point in your career that you wish you knew when you first started out?
For sure. There's a lot of things. I think that one thing I wish I would have known at the beginning of my career is that what it really all comes down to, especially for a Nashville-based band, is the song and the original music product. If you don't have a piece of music that moves people, you really have nothing at the end of the day. Because live shows are great, and I've put a lot of energy and time into making my live show, excellent, and to making that top notch. And then, I've kind of felt myself empty-handed a few times, and I'm like, I've got this great live show, but then I didn't put that same kind of effort, energy into the song, into the production or the actual creative part of making a song that connects with people outside of the live show. So that's one thing that I wish I would have known before. And people have always told me that, And so I don't know why I didn't listen, but but I think that's the biggest thing that I'm like, you know what, you need live show is great, but you need something if it's gonna have some longevity, you're gonna have to have a piece of music that connects with people. So
Yeah, it's pretty. Songwriting is such a thing when you're learning to play an instrument. Not you, but most people when they learn to play an instrument, they're so focused on technique. They're so focused on trying to learn how to play. And they're so focused a lot of times on trying to emulate maybe their heroes. So I'm learning guitar. I want to play like Slash. So I'm going to learn every Guns N' Roses lick and just, I'm going to focus on that. But when it comes time to writing the song, it's a totally different skill set. That is a different thing than the art of actually playing an instrument, of singing. That's why so many pop singers, they don't write their own music. They buy songs from songwriters, probably who live in your neck of the woods.
That's exactly right.
But so have you written songs for other people yet?
Yeah.
Wow. So
yeah.
You get any kind of like songwriting deals, or is it just kind of like every once in a while something gets picked up?
It's been mostly everything I've written so far has been in the room with that artist. I don't have any like any cuts where it's just like we write a song and then someone else picks it up completely separately. But I think that's kind of the way Nashville's moving in the Nashville songwriting scene. Most of the time to get a cut with an artist, unless it's like someone super big, you pretty much have to be writing with them in the room. Just because that means they're publishing companies getting a cut of it too. They're getting a cut of it, et cetera. But also it's just, as an up and coming writer, especially, it's hard to get cuts with people that you're not in the room with. But I've had a couple independent cuts that have done really well. I wrote a song called A Little Bit with a guy named Trey Landon. He's a South Georgia artist and got, 1 million or so plays on Spotify, which is good. And he got a record deal off of that song, which is great for him. And my friend Haley Mae Campbell is another Charleston artist up in Nashville now, written a couple of her singles.
I saw her play with you.
Yeah.
At the music farm.
That's right. Yeah,
she was really good.
She's incredible. Yeah, she's one of my favorite co-writers. We write together a good bit. And so, it's cool. I have a couple other artists, my friend Scott Porter, a bunch of independent cuts, which I love that. I love writing for other artists too. The thing about songwriting, though, kind of what you're saying is it's such an interesting art because there's a skill set side of it. There's like a math side of it, a structure side of it for sure. But then there's like the art form part of it where all that stuff matters or it doesn't at all.
Right.
You never know. Like you get taught all these things and you learn these things as you go, these rules you should follow. Like you shouldn't say this, you shouldn't rhyme the same word with the same word is what you get told in Nashville. And then you hear it on the radio. And then you're like,
and then
wait,
you hear a hit song.
Wait a minute. No, that's against the rules. I'm throwing the flag on there. And so it's so interesting because you can learn all of these skills. And I kind of get bogged down in that too, because I'm a techie guy. I love tech stuff. Like as soon as I walked in here, I'm like, oh man, I love your board. Like I'm in that with songwriting. Like, oh, like how they turn this phrase. I love this technique. And then the person in the room next to me is writing from the heart and like writing me under the table because I'm so focused on the technical part of it. And
they're saying something that like I wrote that when I was 16 years old, but meanwhile they mean every minute, every word. And it's like, oh.
Yeah, I'm missing that because I'm too far in this world. So it's such a balance. And it's like, in songwriting, it's interesting to learn like that. Same thing like guitar, because you can learn the chords, you can learn the scales, but to put them together in a unique and interesting and an emotive way that people connect with, that's the golden ticket. I
find it that kind of getting back to basics type of thing and remembering the rules and practicing them, even though, at some point you're going to break them to do what's right for the song. But it applies to, say, photography, which is something I do. Every once in a while, I got to go back to basics. I'll go for a walk and just take pictures of shapes or of looking for shadows and contrasts and just dumb stuff, which might not make a lot of sense to other people, just to get your brain thinking back to the building blocks, the things that got you interested in the first place. So when you're writing a song with somebody, my experience comes from, I had a very limited experience with that because it was with a band. So we would write songs together and we'd fight like crazy. So I imagine if you're sitting with someone like Haley Mae Campbell, you're not going to fight with her because she says, I want to say it this way. And you're like, screw you. This is the way it's going to sound. No, so that never happens. No one's ever thrown a bass guitar at you, I take it, while you're writing a country song with them in Nashville.
No, there's more of like a cordial written, there's like like the guidelines, the rules, whatever, like, no, we should follow this, we should follow this structure, this thing. There is, you kind of got to argue your case sometimes for a certain lyric or why you think this is, this is good in it or it isn't. So that definitely comes into play. But it's funny because now I'm writing with my band for the first time. Like I haven't written with a band really ever like this. It's always been like me writing the songs, or when me and Alex were writing back in the day, we were the band pretty much. We had other people that came in with us, but we were writing on the song. So
you already had a full fleshed out song, and you said, "Hey, play the drums to this.
Yeah, exactly.
Play the bass to this. This is this is the song." Yeah.
So it's been interesting to get in the studio with the band, and we have had some of that, like, there's so much more. There's 4 people here now, and and now instead of just working through, okay, when I'm writing a song, usually I'm focused just on lyric and melody, and rhythm, groove, the bones of the song. But when we're writing with a full band, we're getting into the nitty gritty of the parts during the writing. So it's been a learning process for me. It's been really cool. It's been really good for me as a writer. Been really good, yeah. Really healthy for me to give up some control and give up some of that back of my head Nashville rules. I'm like, no, we can't do this because we're supposed to do it this way. Like it's been, and there's been points of contention for sure, but it's been good for me to kind of step back and the whole point of writing with the band is having everyone's input, because if not, why not just write it by yourself,
Right. I always found, for me personally, like writing with other people always came out with a better song.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were, regardless of the fights and the black eyes and the hurt feelings, the end product was always better. It was always a collaboration to me. And that's not true for everybody. Mm-hmm. Obviously, but I always felt, for me, a collaboration would always, it would lift me up ultimately.
Oh, always, yeah.
And so it's tough, but every once in a while you'd have a song, and I'm sure this happens to you as a songwriter, where you're just a vessel.
Yeah,
like you open your mouth and gold just poured out of it, and then within 5 minutes you have a fully finished song. And you're like, okay. And you never know when that's going to happen.
Yep.
It's just like all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, I'm glad I was here at the right place at the right time and I had a guitar.
Yeah, for sure. And you got to know whose day it is to do that. It's not always your day. You know what I mean? You're sitting in a room with 3 writers in Nashville, and maybe today is the day that you're the channel. All of a sudden you get, you're on fire. Boom, 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 boom. Here's the whole song. But also you got to be okay ego-wise with it being Haley's day. Or someone else's day, like your band member's day, like he's on fire today, and you have to be able to step back enough, which is tough, especially as a front man. Oh my gosh, being able to step back and be like, guitar player's on fire today. Let's chase that down. Let's serve his creativity today because he's on it. So that's interesting thing as well. But yeah, that's like 1 out of 100 writes. You get the golden nugget where you're just like you do feel like a vessel though. You don't feel like
you don't feel, you feel like a fraud. You're like, I don't know if I should take credit for this.
Yeah, it just kind of came through you, whatever, spirituality you believe in, or just from the universe, whatever it is, that just, sometimes you're right. That's just such a cool feeling. It's such a, that's like the songwriting high, is like when you're like, it all just falls out on the paper.
It's kind of like walking down the street and you look down, there's a $20 bill on the ground. You're like, okay. And morally, you look around to see if anyone might have dropped it, and there's no one around, and you're like, I got $20.
Yep.
Although it's a lot better than that.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. The $20 is probably a lot more valuable most of the time out of the song.
Probably costs you more.
How many
money
Spotify plays does you have to get $20?
Oh my goodness. Well, I record these solo podcasts in between my interviews to just kind of BS about whatever's on my mind. And I was talking about, yesterday was the Bandcamp's first Friday of the month. Do you know what this is?
No, I love Bandcamp though.
Okay, so Bandcamp started at the beginning of the pandemic. They had this Friday where they said, everything we sell today, we're not taking a cut. It's going straight to the artist, 100%. And then all the record labels, and most of Bandcamp is people who are self-publishing, but anybody who had a record label, or at least an independent record label that had their stuff on Bandcamp, all the record labels were like, oh, we're not going to take a cut either.
That's
it goes
awesome.
straight to the musician. And over, they did it 4 Fridays in a row. I basically at the beginning of this, they raised. Wait till you hear this number. How much money they paid out to artists over those 4 days. 4 days, $20 million.
Are you serious? Wow.
No. So now they're doing it every first Friday of every month until they said till the end of the year, and then depending on how long this pandemic lasts, they'll just keep it going.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm trying to tell people, like I'm telling my friends, hey, if the music's available on Bandcamp, go support them.
Yeah.
They're doing awesome things for artists, and I've been using that as a new discovery tool to find new artists because they do a great job of referring. Hey, people who bought this song by Jerry Jacobs also bought Haley Mae Campbell, or you know what I'm saying? Like it'll kind of like Spotify does, but now you're putting money straight into their pocket, which I admittedly love Spotify.
Yeah.
More for that reason of the discovery aspect of it. But now I'm like, oh, well, now I can discover new artists and they can get paid.
For sure. I love Bandcamp, and I wish that it had become popular instead of Spotify. I mean, I love Spotify too, but Bandcamp is awesome. I've been using Bandcamp since I was in like maybe high school or college. In fact, if you're listening, you can dig up some really old school, hilarious, like unreleased, well, not unreleased, but old school Jerry Jacobs music from back in the day that I cannot figure out how to get off of Bandcamp because I forgot my password. So I can't get it off of there. So it's up there for the taking, like multiple college bands. But I always liked it because when you download a song from Bandcamp, they're like, what format do you want it in? Do you want MP3? Do you want a WAV? Do you want a FLAC? What do you want? You want lossless? I mean, it's so
doing video
cool.
now too.
Are they?
Yeah.
You can buy video content?
You could, they have like bands, if they have a music video, they'll put it on Bandcamp.
That's so cool.
So you can just watch the video if you want, or buy it, or however you like. But yeah, I think this whole situation though, people like me are like, hey, we're spreading the word. Record labels are spreading the word because I think there's a lot of attention on Spotify because their stock price is like record highs, and they just bought like every major podcast out there. They bought Joe Rogan. They have Michelle Obama's podcast is exclusively on Spotify. You know what I'm saying? They're really trying to make roads into the podcasting realm. And, you know, I think, of course, when something gets popular, there's always the antithesis of it.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, screw them. They're the big guy. Here's the little guy you should be supporting. So I feel like that's where Bandcamp is now kind of rising up in the ranks of people's knowledge because artists are crying out like, hey, it's great that Spotify's doing great, but we're not. We're hungry, you know?
For sure. Well, you know, that's funny you say that because it's kind of got me an idea, and I'm going to workshop this idea on here. But I've got a bunch of unreleased music that I've just been sitting on that won't work as a single. I don't know if it'll work as an EP together, but I wanted to release it somehow as like a, you know, quarantine mixtape or, you know, some kind of, you know, what I've been working on the last couple of years that hasn't gotten out now that we've got some downtime. And that might be a good way to do it via Bandcamp. Put like a packet of songs like, hey, you know,
bands have been doing that.
Yeah.
They've been releasing them on the specific Friday. So every time that there's one of these, you know, not royalty free, whatever, Bandcamp giving all the money to the artists Fridays, bands have been coming up with content.
Yeah.
So bands will put out a live album, or they'll put out like an EP or B-sides or like you just said, unreleased stuff, and they'll release it on that Friday so that they can get a big bump and get that money. And some of them have been donating the money to charities, which to me is crazy because I'm just like, you're the charity. You're the one we want to be surviving this as well. Like we want you to do well. We want the musicians because can you imagine going through a lockdown without music, without books, without Netflix, without, you know, I think people will understand maybe around this time next year when the content is not as strong because it's a lot of people who couldn't work. And so it's going to be kind of watered down for some forms of entertainment because they weren't able, you know, the disruption you're not going to feel the disruption now because right now you're getting all the content that was produced maybe up till March or so. And then sooner or later, it's going to start drying up, and then you're going to have, you know, Netflix showing, you know, competitive marble rolling. which is a thing. But
That's awesome.
yeah, so yeah, no, I think you should definitely take advantage of something like that and
Yeah.
promote it. Just to get the eyes on there, and then what artists have been doing, they'll release it there, and then maybe 2-3 weeks later they'll put it on iTunes, Spotify, and all the Amazon, all the other platforms, which I think is brilliant. There's so many opportunities now to level the playing field for people like you with that kind of drive, because you have a direct connection now to your audience. Unfortunately, your direct connection that you preferred before was live performance. And now it's kind of like, okay, how do we shift? How do I sharpen all those other skills? I'm sure right now your acoustic show skill is like way more. You're probably getting something out of this that that you didn't have when you're playing with a band, because you can when you're playing with a band, you can make a mistake and no one will notice.
For sure.
Because you've got a lot of people to lean on. You got a lot of cover-ups going on. When you're playing solo acoustic to a crowd that's sitting down, there's a lot of pressure there.
You're on an island up there. And also what I've learned is that like the song selection is even more vitally important on like a cover. So this is more referring to like a cover set. But with a band, you can get away with a little bit more broader range of things because it hits like a wall of sound with a band. With a 4-piece rock band, you're up there. There's things you can get away with that'll go over super well that acoustically you're like, okay, the bones of this song aren't what make this song.
Right.
It's the production, it's the energy of it. So like you get up there, happens every single acoustic show where I'll play a song that kills full band and then blank stares. I'm like, oh, I'm learning a lot about not only that song, but learning about songwriting and learning about production. Cause I'm like, oh, then what makes this, why do people like it full band? Okay. So it's these elements they like, not necessarily the lyrics or the melody. It's these other elements. So it has been eye opening. And I like to, hyper analyze, probably over analyze things like that.
No, that's great.
So, but yeah, I mean, it's acoustic thing's been, it's been interesting. I've had all of the problems I could possibly ever have in the last 2 weeks. Like my guitar is going out every single show. It's like 2020 has no chill right now.
Well,
it's in the shop right now.
The only acoustic that has electric components I have is, I don't know. It might not work for you. So
you're good.
I have guitars if you need to use them, but most of my guitars don't have an electrical connection. They're just pure old school acoustics.
Pure.
Yeah. And I'm also I was never a big fan of expensive guitars.
Oh yeah.
So the guitar I have is a Martin, the one I'm talking about, which is normally an expensive guitar, but this is one of like the X series that are like $600.
Those are pretty good guitars though. Martin's low end stuff is great. Yeah.
Yeah. But I've always been a low end guitar guy. You know what I'm saying? I've always I'll go for an Epiphone over a Gibson.
Yeah.
Because it came from necessity. And then I started to notice the difference in the sounds. And I'm like, there's a mid-range thing that doesn't exist with these cheap ass pickups. When I would go into a studio and play a really here's a $2,500 Les Paul. And I'm like, yeah, it sounds kind of muddy.
Yeah.
I'm so used to my ear of hearing this cheap, thin Epiphone,
That's part of the sound though. And you guys are punk rock, straight punk rock, right?
Yeah, we could get away with sounding like crap.
But it's like, that's part of the charm of it, right?
Yeah, you don't want to sound like the Rolling Stones because why? Because the Rolling Stones sound like the Rolling Stones. But if I hear a lot of indie rock bands, especially again on Bandcamp, you'll find these things that clearly were recorded in someone's like bedroom. There's a whole genre: bedroom pop, bedroom this, that, the other thing, shoegaze. There's all these weird classifications now for music, which all equates to you recorded that in your bedroom or your dorm room or your.
A lot of that. I mean, how good technology is getting nowadays, though, it's hard to tell. Like Billie Eilish, all her stuff is recorded Logic Pro, like. Not that expensive a mic in their bedroom. I mean, they're making all that stuff with like stock Logic sounds for the most part. It's insane, man.
The newest version of we're gonna get geeky here.
Oops, sorry guys.
The newest version of Logic came with a demo, not a demo, but like a demo. It's a full-fledged song from Billie Eilish.
Oh, nice.
And you get all the seeds. You get all the track info. You can see exactly how they produced it. You see the track stacks. You see exactly what effects they're using. They're using, like he said, they're using all built-in effects. And there's a simplicity, But then when you dive into it, you're like, oh, this is genius.
Yes.
Like at first you're like, oh, this is very basic. And then the more you look into it, you're like, wow, she's real. Like whoever recorded this and produced it really took advantage of what they had and made the most out of it.
Yeah. It's her brother.
Really?
Yeah. Her brother produces it all.
I had no idea.
In their little childhood homes where they started. So
that's fantastic.
That just goes back to she has something though, you know, because they don't have the crazy technology. They don't have access to the crazy studio. It's just something about her voice and the way it interacts with melody, her unique melodies and lyrical content. And it's unique. It's not your typical pop. It's so dark and, you know, emotive. And you're like, oh my gosh, like it makes you feel things that pop didn't make you feel before, you know, which is a really cool place that I think pop music is going in this kind of more emotive, you know, direction.
Oh yeah.
Like look at, you know, we were dealing with pop and I loved pop from the early 2000s, but you know, Katy Perry, California Girls was like a big pop song. And now we have Billie Eilish. So it's like, it's so interesting to see where the culture has gone with that and where music has gone. So, and I don't get me wrong, I love California Girls, one of my jams. But anyway, but it's just interesting where music culture is going, you know?
Oh yeah. One of my favorite pop artists, which I couldn't say years ago, but I saw her live, Bishop Briggs. I don't even know if she has that song River.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
I saw her live by chance. I mean, I could tell this story. I got really kind of in a good place at Shaky Knees Festival years ago.
Yeah.
And we were watching an alt country band. I can't even remember who we were watching. A friend of mine and I were watching this band, and all of a sudden we hear this like boom, 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 coming from behind us, and you could feel it. Like the back of your neck started to like the hair started to pop up. And I look over at my friend. I'm like, "You want to go walk over there and see what that's about?" And she was like, "Yeah, let's go check that out." So we walk over there, and it's Bishop Briggs, and and she's playing pop music, but she's got it was almost like a punk rock show. She had the whole place just jumping. The energy was exactly the same that you'd get from the most raw kind of like stripped down punk rock show. It was so much fun. And then I went and immediately got her album, and I've been a fan ever since. But that's the thing. And I guess it's existed at times but we just didn't see it. Maybe, I don't know. But pop music is definitely in a different place now than it was just 15 years ago.
For sure. I mean, look at the new Taylor Swift, which you could take. She's like the flagship pop artist, right?
Yeah.
And her stuff, you know, I guess, you know, her 1989 album, even before that, was straight pop, you know, kind of electro pop, that record, which is great record. But her stuff, her record she just put out randomly is all like super emotional things with not huge screaming hooks. Like it's definitely gone like the indie kind of route. I'm like, that's so interesting to watch. And I wonder, you know, that one's kind of interesting because I wonder if it's an effect of the times that we're living in, you know?
It's interesting timing.
Yeah.
Because I love, there's an artist called Phoebe Bridgers, and the new Taylor Swift album, I swear it could have been written by Phoebe
really?
Bridgers. I mean, like total same vibe. Their new albums came out right around the same time. And it was like, yeah, there's something in the air. There's something in the what's the word I'm looking for? The phrase. The collective unconscious. Yeah. There's something in there that there's this sadness, but there's also this like connection to everybody that we're all feeling. And it's something that's almost nourishing. Like you listen to it and instead of being completely distraught, you're feeling the sadness, but you're feeling like connected. Yeah. If that makes any sense.
That makes perfect sense. I mean, when you're sad, you don't always need a happy movie. You know, you don't always need a comedy when you're in a bad mood. You know, sometimes you want to watch a sad movie. Yeah. You want to connect because you want to connect in that human way with other, like, because it makes you feel, I think part of it makes you feel like you're not alone in that, you know, hey, other people have these emotions. These are okay feelings to have. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be down, especially coming off of a culture where we were all, you know, Instagram filtering everything. And the goal there for a while was to look as pretty and cool as possible. Like that was social media. And like, I feel like social media is going away from that now, which is cool. But like the last, I think 5 years, it was, you know, how cool are you? How good can you look? You know, how many photo shoots can you fit in this month?
How many exotic locations can you post from?
Exactly. And I played that game for a minute on Instagram, and it was tough. The photography budget was outrageous. So
it's pretty interesting now, though. When you look, I think, what was it? What was the one with the stories? It's kind of come and gone now.
Snapchat.
Yeah. Yes. It's kind of faded a little bit. I think Instagram's took a lot of their thunder.
Yeah.
But that kind of thing was, there was still a lot of the glam going on, but there was just like this everyday stuff of people posting these little tiny stories of just normal everyday stuff and funny little things that happen to people just going out grocery shopping or just doing the mundane things became entertainment. And so, I wonder if that kind of fed where people started to realize, hey, it doesn't always, there's interesting things in life that don't always have to be these grand things. They don't always have to be like, oh, look at me, I'm at the Taj Mahal. It could be like, look at me, I'm at Publix.
Yeah.
Well,
that's an adjustment for me, honestly, and it still is to this day. And that's, if I were to get better at that, I think I would be, a better social media participant now. But I'm just like, I love production. I love like the skills and like trying to learn how to make something look professional as possible. I want to be clean, polished. I love that.
Yeah.
And then it's hard to turn around and be like, but people just want to see you at the grocery store. I'm like, but I spent 8 hours on this 15-second video. And then your grocery store video does better. So
look at this drone footage going through the Grand Canyon and just magically showing up on a yacht where I've got a guitar and I'm just like, woohoo! And no one wants to see that now.
Yeah, they want to see me.
Yeah. Well, maybe people do want to see that now, but I think the wave of where people are in society and what people are into. It's so hard to ride. And I think the only thing you can do as anybody in life is to just be yourself at all times, and you'll never have a problem. Sometimes you'll be riding the wave. Sometimes you'll be getting swallowed by the wave, but you'll always be you. And no one's ever going to look back and be like, oh, remember when we used to wear our hair like that? Like you're just being yourself.
That's true.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting. But then you're playing country music, which has pretty much always had not always, but for the most part, had its feet ground in like roots rock, like roots music. Like here's a guitar, here's basic real instruments. And whenever it kind of gets a little too into like the whole country hip hop thing is a little
not so much for you.
Not my thing. I have a pretty open mind, but I felt the same thing about like a lot of the metal rap things of the early 2000s, the Linkin Parks and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that was not my game.
That's awesome.
No, it went right. I was just like, I don't know.
So I'm a big Linkin Park fan, so I can't get on that board. No,
they're nice guys though, by the way.
Oh, are they? Okay.
I met them once and they were genuinely nice people. So I was like, I'm not going to judge them by their music. It didn't do anything for me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, you got to be yourself. But the music you play is, I've heard you play highly produced stuff that you've done because you have this huge skill. But then I've seen you play just with you in an acoustic guitar and still have that. You still sound very polished when you're playing, even in the most stripped down environments.
Well, thank you. I think that could be, I've like I said, I always like the polished stuff, and I think that can be bad sometimes. Sometimes you want to get raw. That's actually what I'm working on right now, is trying to get, kind of fight through some of the overproduction or, and trying to just get raw with emotions and to see, hey, this needs to work, on an emotional level before it works on a production level,
Yeah.
And I guess just getting myself out of that super production mindset.
Get the nerd out of the way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as like, and I would say my stuff is country. It's kind of wavered back and forth.
Right.
Because my influences are very diverse. And so therefore my music is diverse as well. I think in its influences and its production. Like I like a lot of acoustic instruments. There has to be real instruments. There has to be like a real guitar. Like I love acoustic guitars, but I also love some elements of hip hop where there's like, I like electronic drums too. I like synthesizers. I like keyboards a lot. I played keyboard for a while. So it ends up being like this weird mix of all these things. But yeah, I think you could still be called country because it's kind of grounded in, it's grounded in the song and it's grounded in, an instrument. Like it'll be fine on an acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
So,
well, as you said before, sometimes you have a song that's all all about the musical part and not about the songwriting. And until you separate the two, you don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This song works great live, but now I'm playing it acoustic and it's falling flat.
For sure.
Yeah. Have you ever tried to do something, to write a song and just put like a microphone in a room and just write the song and let it be as raw as possible and just
and release that, or just like try to see what it's like?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I've thought about that. I haven't done something like that just because I am such a self-critic where I'm like, if I hit a wrong note, I'm not putting it out. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but I just have to get over that. I think there's an element to the realness and the rawness, like you're saying. So maybe that's something I need to look into, or maybe just doing more like a stripped down couple songs, that are just songs. And if they, who knows, worst case scenario, they take off, or best case scenario, they take off, and then you could produce them full and do whatever you want with them. But what's been kind of cool as well is we're starting, and this might be, I've kind of teased this on social media a little bit, and I've teased it on other platforms and it shows, but we're starting a new band project with the same guys that are in my band. I won't announce the name or anything yet, but it's the same guys I've played with for years. But we've had this kind of pop punk energy for a while. More of a pop rock energy and we kind of felt like there was a separation between my original music and then our show as a band. And so we're like, you know what, let's just chase down that sound as a band. That's what I was talking about, us writing as a band. Let's chase that down and see what that's like. Which has been really cool because we've been writing a lot more rock and high energy stuff. But it's also been cool in my solo writing because it's kind of given me space to slow things down a little bit and to be more raw and more organic because I didn't want earlier. I was scared to do that kind of stuff because it didn't go over. It didn't fit in my live show. Like, oh, I can't write this slow ballad. That's not going to fit in my show.
Yeah.
Like, where am I going to play this? I have no outlet to play this. So now we've got, kind of my outlet for the high energy stuff, which I might, show some of that to you in a minute. And then I'm kind of getting to slow down a little bit on the, the solo stuff side, which has been cool. So.
I found myself getting more. I think we all go through phases of types of music that we're into, and running has brought back a lot of the old school punk rock type of stuff that I used to listen to back in the 90s because it's so high energy and upbeat. So when I'm training for a race, I'm like, I need some speed, I need some power, I need that injection of just that weird energy that I associate with that kind of music. So yeah, definitely let's take a listen.
Okay, cool. So this is all unreleased, and hopefully the band's not going to kill me for putting this stuff out, but I think that'll be fine. So this is more of our ballad song as a band, and it's the first one that we actually have somewhat finished, not mastered yet. But this song's called "The Word," so I'll give you a little preview of this one.
Trying to find the words to tell you what I should have told you yesterday. I was hoping you would see it in my eyes or read between the lines, 'cause I don't wear my heart on my sleeve, but here goes nothing. Baby, I'm sorry, but I can't speak when I can't breathe, 'cause you took my breath away from me like nothing in this world. Well, I feel your heartbeat beating with me, and it's crazy that you don't know what you mean to me. Got a love I don't deserve, but I just can't find the words.
Damn. I thought for a second we were gonna have a demo, oh yeah, we recorded this in my bedroom, and no, that's a finished product. Holy cow, that sounds amazing.
Finished. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
That sounds amazing. Yeah, and that's definitely a step in but that does sound more like when I've seen you live.
Yeah,
that's the vibe. It's a very high energy. Even when you have that's a ballad, but it's still more reminiscent of a power ballad type of feel, because it's, here's this sweet song, but there's a ton of energy, loud guitars, awesome licks, Very cool.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Very cool.
That's
very
how I
cool.
kind of like express, even when I'm like, I mean, that's how I express myself when I'm very like passionate about things. Even when like it's a love song, that's how I feel. I'm like, oh, I have all that energy in it. Even when it is like a more, sensitive emotion, I'm still, still feel that energy to it. So,
Yeah.
but that one is finished. That one we, took in the studio, and I didn't produce that one. Ryan Rossbo, great producer in Nashville, produced it.
I was hearing all these studio tricks in there. I was like,
Yeah.
Are you gonna look at? But so that was someone else produced it.
Yeah. That was the studio track.
How's that for you, knowing that you have all of this audio experience to sit back and let somebody else make the call?
Sometimes it's good. With this guy, he's just really good. It has to be complete trust.
Yeah.
In the producer.
I imagine where you live in Nashville, there's a lot of those people where you're like, I ain't gonna try to. I'm in this guy's house. Let's let him do what he does.
Yeah, and I actually co-wrote the song with the producer.
Wow.
So it was me and the producer and actually a country duo named Jericho Rose, which I love them. They're incredible people. We got together, not even trying to write for the band project, and I kind of literally on the way there, sang that half of that chorus into the phone on the way to the right, and we messed with a couple of other ideas, and then I was like, oh, I've got this thing I kind of like recorded on the way over here. And that became the song, and that was one of those days where it was just all kind of came out at one time, and then I just trusted the producer on that one, and I have a problem with that though. It's hard for me to let go of the. Yeah. It's hard for me not to have the session on my computer. That's the hardest part.
I understand. That's why I asked, because I know what that feeling is like to want full, complete control over everything. To be that psychopath who's just like, I need to control every aspect of this.
That's me.
And to sit down and let other people drive, to recognize that, hey, they're bringing a lot to the table, and it'll be better if I just let them take the wheel for a while.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. But then, so that one, that's like studio track that we doing to a big studio, did the whole thing. Actually went into my friend Ryan Yeoman's studio, who I went to college with, from Clemson. He owns Studio Nashville now, so that's kind of full circle too. But so right after we finished this song, COVID hit, and so then budgets went to absolutely zero. No budgets at all, really. We didn't have any. We were touring a lot, so we were able to finance things like this, and so we were like, shoot, you know what, we've got audio equipment between us. I've got production experience. Let's write some songs in my bass player's basement and make some demos. And so it's funny to see how those have come out too. And so I've got one of those if you want to hear it.
Let's do a little compare and contrast. This is the same group of musicians.
Yeah, exactly. We wrote this song. We actually wrote the song. Me and the bass player wrote this song. So
this is stripped of the Nashville machine, as you would call it. This is just pure, straight from the Jerry Jacobs band.
Yep.
Well, that's not what this band is, I guess, called.
No,
this project.
It's got a new name. I won't announce it yet. It's coming.
Project J.
J.
Whatever it is. All right, cool. Let's take a listen.
Here we go.
It's been a long time coming, and I'm tired of running around in circles again. I'm sick of living like this. I spent the last year wasted, and I can almost taste it, like the tequila in lime. I miss that Cali sunrise. Feels like I'm losing my mind. Then I'm in California again.
So confession time. See, from my musical sensibilities, that sounds more like the type of stuff. Not the song I'm talking about. I'm talking about the production. Like, to me, that sounds perfect. Like I wouldn't mess with that. I would be like, no. That sounds, it's got this very thick, crunchy sound going on, but it's not like distorted, like not crunchy in a like overdone type of way, but it's just it fits the feel of the song. Like you don't want too much spit shine on it.
Yeah.
Like the other song has a gloss to it, but it makes sense because of the type of song it is. But that production, if you put that song with that production on the same album as that other song with its production, and you had it mastered right, just to make sure that like EQs are leveled, I don't think anyone would even notice because it fits the song. Yeah, like that kind of like the drums sound perfect. Like the guitars are just meaty as all can be. The bass sounds great, and the vocals are all like, yeah, you've got it.
Awesome, man.
See, like who needs this?
I know,
you could do this all on your own. But yeah, no, I'm also somebody who a lot of the music I listen to is probably recorded that way in a band's basement or garage or room or whatever practice space.
For sure.
How did you do that all in one place or was it spread out?
Between my bass player's basement where we track the drums on our rehearsal mixer. And then, I think I did the final vocals at my little home studio, which isn't bigger, smaller than this room. And then did the guitars. Our guitar player did most of the guitars at his little home studio, which is literally just an Apollo and a pair of headphones, interface headphones.
Fantastic.
Guitar. So it's all super organic, super raw. And we've got a bunch more in the works that aren't quite to that level yet. But we've got a bunch of songs we've been writing together and kind of producing that because that doesn't cost us anything but time to do. It costs us $0 to make that. Which is awesome. And, I mixed it in Logic and sounds good enough. I'll probably end up maybe have someone else mix it. I don't know. But yeah, man, it's so fun to the coolest part about what I think kind of opened our eyes making that track was we're like, I didn't think we realized we could do that we could make something that, that served the song that well. Just being in Nashville, you're surrounded by so many talented producers and artists. But, like you said, sometimes if it serves the song,
It kind of goes all the way back to that when you and Alex came and recorded in my bedroom and you're like, I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, for sure.
And here you are all this time later going, we can do this.
Yeah.
I forgot we could do this.
Yeah, right.
And you have the skills. Like that sounds fantastic.
Thanks, man.
If you told me that was done in a studio, I would not have known the difference.
Oh, cool. Perfect.
I really wouldn't know. Fantastic, man. Well, tell me before we start to wrap this up, where can people find you? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Spotify, Instagram, Facebook. So on Instagram, it's at Jerry Allen Jacobs, JerryAllen Jacobs. I use Instagram probably more than anything. Facebook as well. I've got a website. We were just talking about this earlier. I'm horrible at updating it. I need to get back on my website game because Joe was right. It's the only thing I actually own out of all these platforms.
Right.
But yeah, I've got music out on Spotify. I've been putting out music for years now. And so there's a bunch of singles and a record up there. But also be on the lookout for the new band project because the two songs we just heard are not Jerry Jacobs solo songs. Those are the band, which I'm
Project
pumped
J.
about. Yeah.
That's not the name, please. And if it is, sorry.
Spoiled it. You just guessed it. If you would have guessed it, I would have been like, okay, I surrender. We can announce it right now because you guessed the name. That's so random. Yeah. So no, and I'll be playing, trying to play shows as they come up and, trying to be respectful of the social distancing. And that's, it's a weird spot to be in because with all of my heart, I want thousands of people to gather in one place to watch me sing. But, that's just not the reality of where we are right now. And
I was telling someone the other day when concert footage shows up in my YouTube feed, and I forgot who it was. I might have been on this podcast. I was talking about a Rush performance showed up from like a festival in like South America, and there was over 100,000 people in the audience. And I'm like, is that ever going to happen again in my lifetime? Oh my gosh! I mean, I know Rush is not going to play again in my lifetime, but I'm saying like, will there be performances where you see these endless waves of people? Like, is that done?
Yeah.
Are we never gonna? Are they gonna be cardboard cutouts?
I don't know, man. I don't know if that's something I can. I don't know. I'll get into scientific research to make that to try to fix that. We gotta get that back. That's my favorite thing is large groups of people. So that's why this has been especially hard. But then what I've realized is like I also have an immense love for creating music. And when I've spent so much of my time tied up on stage and all the trappings that come with it, you know, touring is as you know, is a full-time job,
Yep.
you know, months beforehand, during it, and afterwards, and everything suffers. Your relationships, your health, your mental
we didn't
health.
even get into that with your relationship. Relationships for people in bands are, your wife's a saint.
Yeah, she's the bomb. She's the bomb.
Because there's a lot of trust that has to go on.
For sure.
And you're going to be separated a lot.
Yeah.
And it's not an easy thing. There's a certain type of person that can be a touring musician. It's not for everybody. I've seen, you know, we had struggles in when I was a younger person in a past life, of keeping the band together, because the personalities come through. You know, it's almost more stressful than, say, a marriage, because
Can be.
you've got there's more than one person.
Yeah.
And you're in a high stress, you're at war, for lack of a better term. I mean, I'm not to take away what service people go through, but you're in an uncomfortable situation for an extended period of time. People are out of their element for the most part. There's never certainty. At any time, something awful can happen, and it will.
Yep. It will.
Heck, that was part of the reason why I stopped playing.
Yeah.
Was because I was in a relationship and I wanted to start a family, and I didn't have the skill set that you have and the drive to keep going. And that's why there's always going to be great things in the future for Jerry and his continued projects and his songwriting career and everything he's doing. He's always going to be putting out new stuff for us to check out. So definitely go follow him on Spotify, follow him on Instagram. Maybe don't look up his old stuff on Bandcamp.
You want to
maybe
laugh, go for
still,
it.
I don't know. So thank you so much, man.
Thanks so much for having me, man. And shout out to you for kind of sparking a lot of my, you know, interest in production and stuff. I think, you know, that was like a monumental moment for me, for real. Like when I went to your not your basement, to your upstairs, and we recorded that song, like that was like a light bulb moment for me. And I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, that changed my whole perspective on things. And I, you know, that kind of light bulb that went on that day is still what, you know, lights my way today. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
You have that DIY work ethic, and wherever it came from originally, however but you've possessed it for a long time before that point. And just never forget it.
Yeah.
And I hope that you always keep control of what you're doing, like you've been, because it will pay off, and it has paid off, but it will pay off, you know, continually if you can steer the ship like the way you've been doing it. So my advice to you is keep doing what you're doing, man.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it,
Fantastic. All right. Thank you very much. I'll see you guys soon.
Thank you.